Hello and welcome to another episode of the Skiing is Believing podcast, brought to you by Ski Racing Media. This week, a different kind of episode, Alan, exploring a part of the sport we haven't done yet with sports psychologist Dr. Jim Taylor.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this because we're going to find out things which not only we don't know, but people out there don't know. And it's an important factor.
Absolutely.
A very important factor in all walks of life, not just in sport, but not to actually channel it down to skiing. It'll be fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we're going to be engrossed in listening to and learning from him. I'm looking forward to it very much.
I'll do the stats.
Stats, please, Mark.
Oh, I'm glad you asked. Eventually. Dr. Jim Taylor, then. At 13, he wanted to be the best ski racer in the world. He lived in Connecticut and enrolled at Burke Mountain Academy in North Vermont. His first few years at Burke were a struggle, and he said his biggest obstacle continued to be himself. His goal at 17 was to qualify for the US National Championships, and he realised he needed to make some changes. He became a different person the next summer and went into the next season with a completely different outlook and attitude, having consulted these feelings. Since then, he's done a ridiculous amount of different things, and I'll just overview a little bit. Even Dr. Jim in the episode tells us some of these things. He's got a PhD in psychology, author of 19 books, spent decades working with athletes, coaches and teams in skiing, cycling, triathlon, track athletics, swimming, football, golf, baseball, fencing, and others. He's a second-degree black belt and tournament fighter in karate, a 2-time sub-3 hour marathoner, a 5-time national championship and 3-time world championship medalist in triathlon, as well as a bachelor's degree from Middlebury College in psychology. He's been a consultant for the US and Japanese ski teams, the US Tennis Association and USA Triathlon. He's invited to lecture by the Olympic committees of the Spanish, French, Polish and American teams too. Of course, his background is deep-rooted in ski racing, but he has covered so many other sports in his working career, and we do stick to ski racing as much as possible, but other stuff mentioned. This stuff not just applied to ski racing, not just applied to sport, but applied to life. So, it is now my pleasure, Alan's pleasure, and the Skiing is Believing podcast's pleasure to welcome Dr. Jim Taylor to the show, and enjoy. Dr. Jim Taylor, welcome to the Skiing is Believing podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. And Matt and Alan, it's such a pleasure and an honor to be on, because you have some amazing people from the ski racing world on. So it's I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you, chat it up about something that we all have tremendous passion for.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Our pleasure too. I'm gonna start and sort of get a bit of the backstory with yourself personally, because I believe you were at the collegiate level and a very passionate, young, aspiring skier. So how did that come along and how did that start?
Yeah, so I started skiing when I was 3 years old. My parents were skiers, and we started skiing in Connecticut and then Vermont. And then I attended Burke Mountain Academy, which I'm sure you're familiar with, and the leading ski academy in the world, the first at least I believe, in the first one in the U.S. And yes, when I was 13 years old, and I aspired to be the best slalom ski racer in the world, however unlikely that was going to be. Mm-hmm. When I was 13, I was 4'9", 89 pounds. And I'm not sure if you guys do metric, but that's pretty small. And so I had quite a mountain to climb, even though I was a downhill ski racer. But I worked really hard, and I focused on my strengths, which was I'm a pretty smart guy, and so I'm not this big, strong guy. So I focused on my technical ability, and I began working my way up the competitive ladder. And this actually ties in with both my ski racing history as well as my professional sports psychology history. So I was 17. I just graduated from Burke, and I was a pretty good ski racer. I was probably like top 40 in the nation in slalom. Not great, not not good. I mean, not super bad. And but I was known as a total head case, meaning my mind got in the way of my ski racing. I had no confidence in myself. I would get nervous. I would get really distracted, and I used to DNF all the time. And I almost did well despite myself. And as you well know, in ski racing, all your competitors want to beat you, and the hill, the terrain, the snow, the course, and the weather also want to beat you. So if you're not on your own side, you don't have much chance. So that summer, and I ended up taking two what are called gap years, PG years, before I went to college. And so that summer, I took a class at a local college that exposed me to a lot of the things that I now do with ski racers. Everything from positive self-talk to mental imagery to breathing to routines. And I applied it to my ski racing through that summer and through the fall. And that next year, I had my breakthrough year. I went to top 20 in the nation. I made the very bottom of the U.S. ski team. I was in the top 5 every slalom I was in, unfortunately, except U.S. Nationals, where I hooked a tip. And but for me, the results were very gratifying. But the change in my mentality and my psychology was what was really noticeable. When I got in the gate that next year, I not only knew I was going to finish, I knew I was going to win. And guys, I wasn't the kind of racer that won a lot of races in my career. I was more like a top 5, top 10 guy, but I believed in myself finally. And that was my breakthrough year where all of a sudden I became a serious ski racer. And again, making the very bottom of the US ski team, the development team, I was on a glide path. And so over the next couple of years, I was in top 5 in NORAMs. I competed internationally in Europe and had a lot of success. But just so you don't think I think I'm all that. The way I put my ski racing career was that I competed against the best in the world, but they were not worried about me. And so after I left Burke after 2 gap years, I skied for Middlebury College, one of the top collegiate programs in the country. Had quite a successful career there in college. And then I attended graduate school at the University of Colorado, which, as you probably know, is one of the big ski programs in the country. Very successful. Richard Rokos for many years, an old friend of mine, coached. Have you ever had Richard on? If you haven't, you should. He's a legend. He's an OG. Oh wait, OG? Yes, OG. Anyway, I went there for graduate school, so just to get my graduate training. But I graduated from Middlebury in 3 years, so I had another year of eligibility left. So I actually skied for CU for another 2 years, and during that time, we won an NCAA championship, which at Middlebury we could never do because we didn't have scholarship athletes. And so, and then I raced professionally on the Pro Tour for a couple of years, just for fun to make a little money. And then my 4th year of graduate school, I decided I needed to get serious and finish up school. So I gave up my ski racing career. And for the last many years, I'm not going to tell you how many years I've been doing what I've been doing, but it's a long time. I shifted my passion, my goals of becoming the best slalom ski racer in the world to becoming the sports psychologist, the mental coach for the best ski racers in the world. And I've been very fortunate over many, many years to have worked with pretty much every major junior program in the US, some in Canada, as well as many World Cuppers. Both in the US and as well as European and Canadian World Cuppers, and where I've been able to share my passion, my knowledge of the sport, because ski racing is not running, it's not soccer, it's not tennis, it's a very weird, crazy sport. Think about it, putting sticks on your feet and holding these other kind of sticks in your hand and going really fast down a mountain. That's crazy stuff. And so it is very psychological. And so to this day, I still work with many phenomenal young ski racers as well as World Cuppers. And it's just really satisfying and just plain fun.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Can I just say, the experience you had when you was at college and that, is that one of the bases for the way you look at it now? Is that where you got the base for how you developed it over the years?
Yeah, great question, Alan. And the answer is for sure. So when I got to college, I took a psychology 101 class, which is sort of a standard class you have to take your first semester. And something just clicked in me. The way I put it is, I didn't choose psychology, it chose me. So I could have gone into business, medical school, law, who knows what else. But it's like I didn't have a choice. It just bit me, and it's been my life's work. And I keep using this word passion because that's what drives me. It's what's guided my life, and certainly it has also shaped my experiences in how I think about the psychology of ski racing, because I've been there, I've lived it, I know the struggles, I know what it's like to be at the top of a course and to look down and have it be bulletproof and steep and tiring and scary. And so it's very much guided my thinking about how I approach the psychology of ski racing. It also, of course, I think helps me better understand the athletes I work with, because I've been there. Now, I haven't raced the Hahnenkamm. I was not a very good downhiller, but I know that feeling for sure. And I think it's also helped with my credibility, because when World Cuppers come to me, they know I've been there. They know I've faced the same challenges. And so it helps me not only build a relationship with them, but also helps me really understand what is going on with them, and then to be able to figure out how can I help them.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah. So in terms of away from ski racing just for a moment, in sports that you haven't necessarily played or done at such a level, how is it, I suppose, a little bit harder to put yourself in the athlete's shoes?
Yeah. Another good question.
What do you bring over from ski racing that can be applied to other sports?
Sure. So first of all, I've been a competitive sportsman my entire life. So after ski racing, I'm a second degree black belt in karate, and I did tournament fighting for a while, and I also taught karate. I'm also a sub 3 hour marathoner, which for marathoning is relatively fast for a normal person. I'm also an Ironman triathlete. And so I know I know what it feels like to suffer. And also for the last 5 or 6 years, I've been focused on short course triathlon. And I'm going to pat myself on the back here. I'm a 5-time national champion and a 3-time world championship medalist. And so one thing I take pride in myself is that I walk the walk, and I practice what I preach. So I'm not just some sort of armchair. I don't know if you know the expression armchair quarterback. I don't know if they have that in European football, but and I'm not somebody who just read stuff in books, but I've lived it. And so yes, Matt, I've worked in sports with athletes in sports that I know nothing about, like equestrian, like squash, like fencing. But first of all, for me, performance is performance. Whether it's ski racing, tennis, golf, squash, football, whatever, and even beyond sport, surgery. I've worked with medical professionals, business. I've worked with performing artists, dancers. Performance is performance, and they require pretty much all the same general qualities. You have to be motivated, confident, relaxed, focused. You have to be resilient. You have to know how to deal with struggles, ups and downs, failure, and so on. So the challenge is simply taking my understanding of how I look at performance and apply to their specific needs. So for example, fencing, it's a combat sport. It originated in an activity where if you didn't win, you died. I've done martial arts fighting, which same thing can happen. So it gives me some understanding there. Something like equestrian. I've worked with a number of equestrians. What complicates equestrians is that there are 2 psychologies involved, the rider and the horse. And one thing I learned very quickly was that, let's say approaching a jump. So I worked with 100 jumpers mostly. That if you're approaching a jump and you are thinking you don't want to go over it, you communicate that to the horse. And so the horse goes, he or she doesn't want to go over the jump. Well, I'm not going over either. And then they hit the brakes, and the rider goes flying over the jump. So bottom line is that I use it as a learning experience, because yes, every sport has its unique aspects, but I also know that the framework I've created, something that I call my prime performance system, and we can talk about that if you want at some point, I can apply to any kind of performance setting, but with adjustments, with understanding what are the unique demands of the sport or the setting.
Let's go to prime performances because I feel like that is definitely going to slip my mind. So we'll go straight to it, to be honest.
All right. So I assume you two have heard the phrase peak performance before.
Yes.
And so peak performance is what everybody aspires to, right? Who wouldn't want to be aspired to peak performance? Isn't it like performing at the very best level you can ever be at? And when I came out of graduate school, that's what I want. That's what I thought I want my athletes to achieve, because peak performance has become a part of the ski racing vocabulary, the language of sport. It's in the business world. It's everywhere. It's also a brand of ski clothing, and it's not a commercial plug. I don't get anything from them. But the more experienced I became as a psychologist and a writer, I came to appreciate the power of words, and that it's really important that the words we use are highly descriptive of what we're trying to communicate. And I decided that peak performance wasn't highly descriptive of what I wanted my athletes to achieve. Why? Here's a peak. What's wrong with peak performance? Well, there's just one little point, and then there's only one direction to go, and that's down. And even though you guys don't live in the Alps, you're close to the Alps, you know that the nature of the Alps is when the drop is precipitous. It's steep. Also, this doesn't happen quite as much in ski racing, but certainly in endurance sports. You've probably heard athletes say, oh, I peaked a week early or a week late. So that, for me, I'm a word guy. That is not a word that worked for me. So I struggled for a couple of years trying to come up with a phrase that I thought was descriptive of what I wanted my athletes to achieve. And so I tried to stay in the geographical domain. So I thought of like Mesa performance or Butte performance, not B-E-A-U-T performance, but B-U-T-T-E performance. Didn't grab me. And then one day I had this meeting of timing and readiness. I was walking through the supermarket down the meat section, and I look at this steak, and it had a sticker on it. I don't know if they have this in the UK. The sticker said prime cut, prime cut. And I had one of those light bulb aha experiences. Went back to my office, looked up the word prime, and it was defined as of the highest quality or value, of the highest quality or value. So I finally had my phrase, prime performance, or in our case, prime ski racing. Here's how I define prime ski racing: skiing consistently fast under the most challenging conditions. Skiing consistently fast under the most challenging conditions. Now, there are two, I'm going to put you on the spot here now. The two important words in that definition. Don't look scared. See it as a challenge, not a threat. I'll define it one more time. Skiing consistently fast under the most challenging conditions. Two important words in that definition. What are those important words?
Consistently.
Okay, let's start with that. Now, and it's not just consistency, but it's consistently fast, because you can be consistent, but you can be consistently slow, and that is not something to aspire to. And you think about the World Cuppers. Think of Odermatt, Kill, Pinteralt, all the best ones, the Fellers. What makes them, the Gogias, the Shiffrins, the Vlovas. What makes them great is not that they can go out and have one great race. If they do it day in and day out, week in and out, month in and month out, year in and year out. And if you go to the FIS.com and you look at Mikaela's DNF rate over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, or Odermatt's, it's like a couple of races. It's unbelievable. Considering the speeds they go and the risks they take, they rarely ever DNF. That's one thing that makes a great one great. The second, well, by the way, what's the second word?
I thought it was fast, actually. But
no, that's part of the consistency.
That's part of the yeah. So
skiing consistently fast in the most challenging conditions.
Challenge.
Yes, challenging.
Challenging.
Exactly. Ski racing is not bowling. It's not archery. It's not even basketball. Every time a racer gets in the gate, they're faced with incredible challenges. Not only external ones like snow condition, terrain, course set, weather, but the level of the race, world championship, Olympics, national championship, junior championships, whatever it might be. But also internal challenges. Like I said, confidence, motivation, focus, emotions, fear, all those things. And so how often do racers race under conditions where they're starting 7th. It is 30 degrees Fahrenheit, hero snow, and their favorite hill. Pretty darn rare. What makes the great ones great is their ability to ski consistently fast in the worst possible conditions in the biggest races of the year. And one thing I love, this goes way back, but before the flip 30, basically they would flip the top 5. So if you're in the top 5 of the first run, you were guaranteed hero snow the second run. Not a lot of challenge there. But now you win the first run of a World Cup, you're starting 30th. And as you well know, the courses run 30th are not always in very good shape. And yet, what often happens? The people who win, those guys and gals that I mentioned, the best in the world, they may not win the second run, but they are way up there the second run, and they end up winning the race. So they're not just winning because they have, hero snow. They're winning because they are incredible athletes and incredible ski racers. So that is my definition. That is the goal toward which I want my ski racers, all my athletes, to strive for. Ski consistently fast on the most challenging conditions.
I like that.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, really good at that. Do you feel that your job really is to alter the minds of people, the mindset?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me start off by saying this: that people come to me typically because they're stuck. They have big aspirations, big goals, but they can't seem to get where they want to go. In training on the brower, and some of you know what a brower is, that they're training fast. They're training with the best of them. But they get into a race. All of a sudden, they're seconds out. Now, clearly, if they're able to ski fast in training, that means they have the physical, technical, and equipment capabilities to ski fast. So the reason they're not skiing fast in a race has to be mental. But what's interesting about this is that if you think about a training run of slalom, let's say, and a race run of slalom, is there anything objectively different between them? No. There's the course, the snow, the terrain, and the weather. What's different is up here, is their attitude toward it, how they look at it, their mindset. And so in coming to me, I help them change their mind, if you will. I get them to, and I guess I can talk about this now. I talk about the mind is made up of muscles. And just like physical muscles, mental muscles can be weak, they can be strong, and they can be injured. And so, but for sure, if they're not exercised, they won't get stronger. And to get better, to be the best, you have to have very strong mental muscles. And the 5 mental muscles that I work with most often are, I've mentioned them already: motivation, confidence, actually intensity. Let me step back and explain what that is, because it's a little different. Most people think about intensity as like mental intensity, like super serious, super focused. Not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this range of physical activation, from really relaxed like sleep to sheer terror, fear. And there's 2 parts of this. Let's think of 1 to 10 as good intensity. So somewhere between 1 and 10 of intensity, from sleep to really fired up. Every racer skis their best, but there's no one ideal level of intensity for every racer. So if you think of like a Pinterol, he strikes me as being a pretty chill guy. In the start area, in the start tent, you look at him, he's breathing deeply, he's pretty relaxed. A Mikaela, she started out too intense, but she's learned to moderate herself, so she's kind of medium fired up. But then you have a Manny Feller. What do you think about Manny Feller in the start? He's unbelievably fired up. Lindsey Vonn, classic Lindsey Vonn in the start. And she does that weird thing with her grip. And so it's totally personal. So the first thing they need to figure out is what their ideal intensity is, because you can have all the mental stuff in the world, but if you're not physiologically capable of getting down the hill fast, the mental stuff's not going to help. Then there's bad intensity. Think 11 to 15. And 11 to 12 is like kind of nervous, 13, 14 is really nervous, and 15 is like scared. I'd have to swear to use the word, but you know what I'm talking about on this podcast. Anyway, so back to the mental muscles: motivation, confidence, intensity, focus, and then resilience. Resilience is a muscle because in training, in racing, you're going to have setbacks, DNFs, mistakes, struggling with technique, struggling with terrain, struggling with weather, with course set. If you don't have a strong resilience muscle, you are not going to last very long in the sport. Now, in an ideal world, people wouldn't wait till they get mentally injured to come to me. Think about this. Do you wait to get injured to do conditioning? Of course not. You do conditioning to prevent injury. And more I'm getting athletes, whether it's World Cuppers or young athletes whose parents contact me, and it's like May or June or July. Because you wouldn't believe the number of calls I get 2 weeks before US Nationals. Can you get me ready? Guys, I think I'm pretty good at what I do. I've been doing it a while, but I'm no magician. And you'd never go to a conditioning coach and say, I got 2 weeks before Nationals or whatever, get me strong. That's absurd. And because, here, let me back up a sec here. So the reason why, before, Alan, before we got on recording, you had asked me, that you said, well, is sports psychology kind of new? And
oh yeah,
here's why mental training in sports psychology is not an integral part of every athlete's training. First of all, it's not tangible. You think about going to the gym, lift weights. You're putting plates on the bar. You can lift it. You can grab the bar. On the hill, I can see the video. I can see the athletes skiing. You can see technique and tactics. Because you can see it, feel it, touch it, measure it, it's easy for athletes and coaches, for that matter, to wrap their arms around. But the mental side, it's like grabbing onto fog. Because like, I can't show you confidence. I can't show you motivation. I can't touch focus. But it's real. And one of the first questions I ask athletes is, how important is the mental side of ski racing? And is it less, as, or more important? I've asked this question of thousands of racers over the years. Very few say it's less important. Most say it's more important, say it's as important, but a lot say it's more important. Then I ask, so how much time are you devoting to mental training? And they go, You know, they spend 4 or 5 hours a day on the physical and technical training. And the fact is, ski racers do mental stuff. They do things to be positive, to relax, to focus. They do imagery maybe some of the time. But mental stuff isn't mental training any more than doing arm curls 3 times a week is physical conditioning. And so my first challenge is, how can I help racers really wrap their arms around the mental side of ski racing? Meaning, how can I make it more tangible? And I do that in a couple of ways. First of all, I call it mental training. So racers understand the concept of training, physical training, on snow training. I talk about mental muscles. Mental muscles, oh yeah, muscles are real. I can relate to that. Mental muscles are the same way. I also talk about mental exercises and mental tools. Ski racers understand exercises, whether it's drills on the hill for stance or balance, or exercises in the gym lifting weights. And everybody can appreciate tools. A hammer. Most everybody's at least swung a hammer once in their life. Well, tools are something that when you first start using them, you're not good at it. So I don't know if you've ever hit a nail before with a hammer, but I worked through my years at Burke and Middlebury, I worked as a carpenter. And when I first started using a hammer, I missed the nail a lot. But with practice, you get better at using the hammer. And the same thing with mental tools. And so in terms of the mental tools, because here's the thing, ski racers are doers. They want stuff to do to get better. So I give them stuff to do to get better. So some of those common exercises I give athletes is goal setting. You can't get somewhere unless you know where you're going and how you're going to get there. mental imagery, visualization. You can call it either one, that's fine. The most powerful mental tool there is. If a ski racer is not doing mental imagery on a regular basis, on and off the hill, they are not going to become the best ski racer they can be. And I know this not because I've studied it, because I've done it with the ski racers I've worked with up to the World Cup, but because that is the singular exercise that when I took that summer course that I described, that is the singular exercise that changed my ski racing life. Because when I first started doing imagery, I couldn't make it 5 gates without hooking a tip. Just hook, 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 hook. I couldn't get my mind to picture myself going around the gates. Because imagery is not just picturing stuff in your head. It taps into your unconscious. And I lacked confidence. At a very deep level, I didn't believe I could make it down a course. So it came out in my imagery. But by doing it over and over and over again, I finally was able to finish a course. And then I was able to finish course fast. This is in my image. This is only in my mind. I haven't even gotten out on the hill yet. And I was able to finally finish a course. Then I was able to do it faster and faster and consistently. And that is what changed that next year. My consistency and my belief that I could ski fast. Anyway, powerful. Routines. I don't know a world-class athlete in any sport or any activity, surgeons, dancers, who don't have clearly defined routines before they race, before they compete, before they perform. And one thing I love doing is at the top when I'm at a World Cup, and whether it's Beaver Creek or Cortina or wherever it might be where I've seen World Cups, is watch what the racers do in the start area. They all have very different routines, but they're all focused on one goal. When they get in the gate, they're able to say, I'm as prepared as I can be. So routines, but also not just race routines, but also training routines. And most young ski racers, what do most young ski racers do at the start of a training course? They're leaning on their poles, chatting up with their friends. They get in the gate. Are they physically ready? Are they mentally ready? No. Are they going to have a quality training run? No. Are they going to get the most out of their training session? No. Are they going to become the best ski racer they can be? Emphatically, no. And then other little tools. Breathing is a really powerful exercise. Things like smiling, things to motivate yourself. There's a whole list of exercises. So all these things that I've just mentioned are used to train those mental muscles. They are also tools, because let's say you're in the start area and you're nervous. You just go, oh, I'm nervous, my day is done. No, you pull out your relaxation tool out of your mental toolkit. You relax. You start to have negative thoughts. You pull out your pull out some positive self-talk tools from your toolkit. You can do that. So these are both exercises for mental training and mental tools for when you're getting ready to perform. I've been talking a lot.
No, it's good. Very good. It's good.
Very good.
There was a thing, I've been reading some of your articles today, and there was one that struck me, it rung a bell with me, and that was about your dislike, maybe, of the smartphones and the misuse,
Yes.
if you like, of smartphones.
Yeah. So I'm not anti-technology. I love technology. It's made my life so much easier. It's enhanced the life of so many people. But it can be a problem for athletes, for ski racers, for sure, at a couple of levels. First of all, if you ask any coach, they will tell you, oh, kids these days, they just can't focus anymore. And there is research that shows that, yes, it is younger people have a hard time focusing because they're so used to scrolling through Instagram, through TikTok, attention for 5 seconds, they get a little bored, they move on. At the same time, I work with a lot of young ski racers, a lot of young athletes, and they have a tremendous capacity to focus if they're engaged, if they're interested, if they're motivated. And so very often it's the challenge of the coaches to make sure they are those things. But it's very clear that social media can be toxic in how you look at yourself. I talk about comparison all the time with the racers, with especially the young racers I work with. One of the challenges of comparison is you never compare yourself down, meaning you never look at how much better than you are than 80 of the 90 racers in the field. What you always do when you compare is you look upward. You're looking at the ones ahead of you. And when you look at the ones ahead of you, that makes you feel less than, it makes you feel inadequate, it hurts your confidence. And it used to be, it was just your teammates you'd compare yourself to, or guys and gals you're racing against. But now you're comparing yourself to the world. And this is up to the professional level. I work with a lot of professional athletes. And what do? They're following their competitors. So they see, oh my gosh, this athlete did this insane workout. I need to start doing that. So it can be not only a distraction, it can actually hurt your confidence, your motivation, create anxiety, worry, doubt, all those things. Plus, when I'm on the hill with athletes, with racers, and I spend quite a bit of time on the hill and training with them. I don't coach them. I'm not a ski coach, but I mental train them on the hill because that is the ideal place for them to understand that if they do certain mental things, they go faster. I do not allow phones on the hill because there's nothing that kills me more. On the ride up the chair, they're checking their Instagram account, or they're getting entertained on TikTok, or they're following people and seeing what they're up to. Training is a time to be focused. Off the hill, you can do whatever you want with your phone. It's a free country. Even on the hill, it is sort of a free country, except when I'm on the hill with them, then it's not a free country. but you want to be focused on the hill, because whatever you put into your training, that's what you'll get out of it. And what you put into it is a function of how mentally and physically prepared you are for every training run. And so this idea of mental training is not just stuff you do off the hill. It's not just the 1 hour a week doing a remote call, video call with me. It's what you do in training, both off the hill and in the gym and away from the sport. That is where mental training lives, and that's where the differences are made.
Lovely. Well,
you agree with a lot of that, don't you?
I do agree with all that. I do entirely.
I wanted to talk a bit about your writing, because you've got a lot on your own website about various aspects of mental training in ski racing and other sports as well, but ski racing media as well, pieces you've done there. So how has that been able to sort of link the elements together and sort of be not only be able to share it with other people, but help you put it on paper or put it into a Word document, whatever it may be?
Yeah. Good. Another good question, Matt. So writing has always been an essential part of my career, of my work, and not necessarily because I'm looking for something from them. For example, I've written 18 books. Have they all been bestsellers? No. Have I made not a lot of money from them? No. But for me, writing is a path for my passions. And again, I keep using that word because that is what drives me. And in an ideal world, that's what should drive every young ski racer. Not winning World Cups, not becoming famous, but I just love being out there whacking gates and flying down the hill. And so for me, writing is two things. First of all, if I get an idea, I can't not write about it. It gets in my head and it just gets in my brain, and I just can't get it out until I write about it. For me, not to write is to be not me, is not to be who I am. It's a part of my identity. And my life is, for me and for everybody, should be about expressing who you are, your authentic self. Plus, yes, it is an important way that I communicate ideas to people. So I've got blogs, I've had newsletters, I've written book chapters, and of course I've had my books. But it's also a way, it's also shaped my thinking, the way I approach the psychology of ski racing. Because when you have to write something, you have to organize it. You have to think about it. You have to be creative. You have to think about innovative ways of helping people, of sharing ideas. And so that's been an essential role in the creation of my prime performance system and how I approach the athletes I work with. It is also, for me, just a source of great satisfaction. It's almost like building something. So there was this empty sheet of paper in the old days, or now a blank Word doc or a Google doc. And then an hour later, there's stuff on it. That's like a really great training day. where you worked hard and you produced something. That's immensely satisfying for me. And so, and it's interesting because I encourage athletes to journal. And I never force them to, because over the years, probably 10% of the athletes I've worked with journal, because it's not something they're accustomed to. They're not used to it. It's not easy. It takes some discipline, but it really can make a difference. Because, and especially not just typing in the computer, there's been a ton of research that has shown the act of writing helps you express your emotions, clarify your ideas, and also helps with retention of information. So in school, a lot of professors don't allow laptops. First of all, it's a distraction. They can be playing video games on their laptops, but also this keyboarding doesn't have the same neurological effect on learning and memory and retention. So simply writing how you feel, what's going on with you, how was your day, self-reflection is a key component that I see in almost every great performer I know in every field. They take time after a performance, after a training day, and they write down what went right, what went wrong, what can I learn from it, how do I feel about it. Let's say they had a massively bad race day. If you don't do something with those feelings, the frustration, the anger, the sadness, the disappointment, you keep it inside, and it just roils around inside and burns at you and just eats at you. But when you write it down, it gets out. And it's also great for progress. So you can see how you've improved. Gosh, I was really confident today, or I was way more relaxed than usual. Because unlike, as I talked about earlier, unlike the physical side where performance data is clear, time, strength, vertical height, video analysis, all those things. The mental side, it's not so clear. So it helps see that, oh my gosh, I'm actually getting better in these mental areas because I'm seeing changes in the way I think, in the emotions I experience, and ultimately how I feel before a race, and ultimately how I perform.
Yeah. And
yeah.
I mean, I presume that ski racing is your favorite sport.
I hate being asked that question by somebody in ski racing. For many, many decades of my life, for sure. Because I ski raced, I worked in the sport for many years. I still do. My daughter's ski raced, and one is now in college ski racing. I love the sport. I love the people. It's an amazing community. It's a small world. But as I talked about earlier, I'm a very serious triathlete now. And so and I don't compete in ski racing anymore. For a number of years, I would maybe race twice a year in a local fundraiser. And it was great fun. And one thing that I take pride in is that I've learned to ski new school, because as you've probably seen, if you look at videos from the 80s and 90s, they ski a whole lot different than they do now. Mm-hmm. And so for my credibility, I had to learn how to ski what I call new school. And so because if I go out on the hill with some racers and I'm skiing like I'm from the 90s, that's like, imagine somebody dressing like the 80s or something like that. Kids are going to look at you and go, loser, or whatever. And so I had to learn how to ski new school because I wanted them to see that I understood the sport. Okay. So, but nonetheless, these days, my competitive fires, that part of my life is all about triathlon, but there are two sports that I follow all the time, triathlon and of course ski racing, partially because I have a lot of athletes, ski racers, who are competing, and I want to see how they do. And I love watching World Cups on YouTube and so on. So hopefully that doesn't alienate me from the sport that's been the central part of my life for so many years.
So in terms of that, so that's the reason you're still involved with it and keep coming back despite all these other involvements. Completely so.
I still love the sport, and I love the people, and I love getting out on the hill. I still ski, of course, and nothing brings me more joy than skiing with my kids, and I love watching races, and I love seeing ski racers develop.
Yeah, I was just thinking about when you actually had a session with a racer, and then you actually watch them race, can you pick up any part of what you've been teaching them that they're not actually using?
Yeah. In fact, when I first am approached by a racer, whether by their parents or if it's a World Cup or a high level adult racer, I always ask for video because I can learn a lot from how they ski. Because especially I'll have them send me some video of themselves training and of themselves racing. And there often can be a dramatic difference where in training, it's full gas. They're charging. They're on edge. In a race, they're skiing well. But I make this distinction between skiing well and skiing fast. And they are not the same thing. These days, with modern equipment, almost anybody can ski well. But they don't give style points in ski racing. I wish they did. I would have been a better ski racer because that's what I was really good at. That's how I became a pretty darn good ski racer. Not because I was super big or super strong or super aggressive. I learned how to be aggressive. That's a whole nother story. But watching racers now, if they're skiing cautiously, if they're skiing tentatively, if they're inside, back seat, if they're not charging, you can see that. And that tells me that it's what's going on up here. And so then if we are working together and I watch them race and I see them charging, and they'll tell me like, oh my gosh, I was ripping. Because ski racing is a sport that you can't play it safe. Like soccer, tennis even, whatever. You can play it safe and still be pretty successful. You are going to be seconds out if you play it safe in ski racing. You have to be on the edge. And Odermatt for me he's my prototypical ski racer because he doesn't look very good. He's all over the place. He's making mistakes. He makes multiple mistakes, but they're good mistakes because he's making mistakes because he's going so darn fast. So he makes a mistake, has to dump some speed, but the net is a gain, meaning he made the mistake, but he still was going fast. He's constantly on the edge. And that is the greatest challenge for young ski racers. Learning to ski on the edge, get comfortable skiing on the edge, and not play it safe. So one more thing about that. So one of the first questions I ask when I work with a young racer is, would you rather be ripping down a course and DNF or play it safe, finish, and be slow? What do you think literally 100% of them say?
Fast.
Of course, duh. Of course, right? Nobody's going to say, "Oh yeah, well, I just want to finish and be slow," right? No, of course not. They want to go, but that's easy to do sitting here talking to me. When they're about to get in the gate, every young ski racer asks that same question, not consciously, but they ask the same question because what is on their mind most is this: if I want a point result, if I want to qualify for the next level, I need to finish. And if I let it rip, I might not finish. So but I just have to finish. But then what happens? They finish, they're slow, they don't get a point result, they don't qualify for the next level. It's if I had to break down everything, I mean, ski racing, incredibly complex sport. Think about all the things that go into ski racing. Obviously, equipment, the physical, the nutrition, the sleep, the mental side, all these things. But ski racers tend to make a complex sport of ski racing complicated by adding things like doubt and worry and anxiety and comparison and points and qualifying and all these things. But ski racing is actually, when you get right down to it, very simple. You get in the gate. What should be the one single thing on your mind? Two words.
Oh, sorry.
What'd you say, Alan?
I was going to say, get to the bottom as fast as you can.
Well, yeah, true. Yeah. I mean, I shortened that to just go fast. But yes, get to the bottom as fast as you can. And going fast is a skill. And this is where I get into discussions with coaches when I work with programs is they spend a lot of time making young ski racers good ski racers. And that's really important because this is one thing that when I talk about full gas, full send, bring it, young racers think, well, I'm just going to pin gates. Well, nobody ever won a World Cup by being the fastest the first 10 gates. So to be a fast ski racer, yes, you need to be a good ski racer, because you can, yes, pin gates for 10 gates and you'll be super fast, but then you'll blow up. So yes, it's important to learn proper technique, tactics, stance, balance, all that stuff. But that's not enough. Racers have to learn to go fast. And that's an entirely different skill. And this is something that I learned firsthand. So because my strength was my mind, in terms of like figuring out good technique, I was technically a very good ski racer. I remember one of my coaches at Burke after the race said, "Oh yeah, you look good." That was not a compliment. He's, again, no style points. That year when I learned about the psychology of ski racing, so this is actually very interesting. So that next year, the year after actually, my coaches had me ride motocross, and they had me train as a soccer goalie. Obviously, motocross, you're going fast, you're on a course with terrain and track conditions, and you can crash. Soccer goalie, you're falling on the ground a lot. My coaches wanted me to get used to falling. They wanted me to get comfortable with taking risks and blowing out sometimes. And what happens with a lot of racers, when they start to practice going fast, they're not used to it. They're like going like, it's like, whoa. And watch, look what I did when I said that. Whoa, is this any way to go down a hill? No. But your mind and your body hasn't caught up with the going fast. But if you keep doing that, your body and your mind will catch up, and then you'll finish. So I don't believe in holding. If you're young racers, I don't believe in holding back, unless maybe you've DNF'd 10 in a row and you just need to get a W, meaning you need to get a win of finishing the darn course, finishing a darn race. But as a general rule, I just say, as long as the technique is solid, a good chunk of your on-snow training, your gate training, should be just full gas, go as fast as you can. Because the only way to find out how fast you can go is to cross the line. And I know probably my most disappointing race was NCAA's at Park City, where I was, I think, in 7th after the first run, and I had a shot at top 5, maybe a podium, and All-American status. And now, first of all, little excuses here. Eastern skiers back then didn't do well on Western snow because they didn't have snowmaking back then. It was just soft snow, and our edges were just super sharp because that's what Eastern kids did. And I did my run, and I crossed the line. I remember threw up my arm, and I went, yes! I thought I'd crushed it because I felt so good. But if you feel good, do you know what that means? You're slow. And I go back to probably my best race was Eastern Championships when I was at Middlebury. And I ended up, I won the race, I think. Yeah, second or third, I don't know. But both runs, I was hanging on for dear life. I was so on the edge. I felt terrible. But one thing I learned was when I felt terrible, that means I was fast. And I was. And so, these are, we sort of got off, I don't know how we got in this conversation, but bottom line is that ultimately the ability to go fast is, the foundation has to be technical and physical. You have to have the technical and physical capabilities to stay on the turn, to get deep at the top of the turn, to resist all the forces, but then it's mental. And you just have to be willing to fail. Yeah, I mean, that's like the holy grail of ski racing. That's the holy grail of life. Of just, I don't care if I blow out. All I care about is going as fast as I can. But of course, the nature of risk taking is, by definition, risks don't always work out. But if you can let go of that fear of failure, and this is some of the deeper stuff. Maybe if you want to ask your next question about Dr. Jim, tell me about this deeper stuff. Is that if you can let go of that fear of failure, and your singular goal is to go as fast as you can, no matter what happens, two things happen. You're no longer afraid of failing. You're no longer nervous, because if you fail, it's like, if you don't finish, that happens. Okay, and I'm going to swear here. Pardon my language here. But one of my favorite sayings is that shit happens in ski racing. It's not that bad a word. But this isn't like school, where if you study hard and you're reasonably intelligent, you're going to do well in the exam. Every ski racer up to the World Cup knows that they've been totally prepared in the gate, and things don't always work out. Because you can't control everything. But if you keep having that singular goal, full gas, I don't care what happens, sooner or later, you know what's going to happen?
You'll do well.
Well, first, you're going to finish, and then you're going to do well. Exactly, Matt. Exactly. Yeah. And so that is something that is such a key part of my work with racers, is in their training. Because you don't just all of a sudden decide, oh, I'm going to go fast in a race. I hate it when I hear racers say, I need to step up today. Or coach says, you need to find another gear. Well, you know what? There's no stepping up or finding another gear in ski racing. Whatever you bring from training, that's what you'll put out in the race. So if you're used to going 70% in training, that's what's going to happen in a race. Or maybe you try to get it up to 100% and you're not trained for it, so you blow out. So you need to train for that 100%. And so when you get to the race, it's not like, okay, now I got to put it up in the fifth gear. No, I just need to do what I've been doing in training. Nothing more, nothing less. And that's what the best ski racers in the world do. They don't try to do anything different than they did in training. Because if they go fast in training, that means they can go fast in a race. Okay.
Yeah, Dr. Jim.
Yes.
You said a little while ago about Audemars being scruffy, etc., but it's because he's fast. Can you tell me why Mikaela Shiffrin is the best?
Yeah. Sort of interesting. I've known Mikaela for years, although I don't know her well anymore, for sure. I've seen her train at Burke. I've known her coaches, and she's been something of someone I'm a student of, because clearly she has become the GOAT of alpine ski racing, the greatest of all time. What's interesting is, speaking to Kirk Dwyer, who was her main coach at Burke and the headmaster at Burke for many years, he said she wasn't even the best athlete at Burke. So you can't attribute the fact that she's like some genetic freak. Although certainly at that level, everybody's a freak. But to a slight degree, she is less so. What she is, she's very bright. She's very detail oriented. She's hungry to learn. I remember being on the hill with her when she was like, I don't know, 14 or 15. I was at the finish with some of the coaches, and every single run she came down, what can I do to get better? What can I do to get faster? And so she obviously has a tremendous capacity to ski technically and tactically well. At the same time, she has carried the weight of her shoulder, of the weight of the world on her shoulders for years. I mean, she was a phenom. And she won World Juniors when she won her first World Cup she won her first gold medal at 18. She was born and raised with a certain mindset, and I attribute it to her parents, her late father Jeffrey and her mom Eileen, instilled in her this really healthy attitude. Because under most normal conditions in that situation, most people are going to crumble. Because here's a metaphor I use. Imagine you're about to get in the gate of a race. Somebody forces you to put on a 30-pound weight vest. How are you going to feel? Weighed down, heavy. How are you going to ski? Not well. Well, that's what a lot of young racers put on. Not intentionally, but whether it's because of their own expectations or their parents want it so bad. And a lot of my work is about taking the weight vest off, to feel light, to feel free. And Mikaela, it's interesting because she has found her sweet spot, this balance of needing to ski more aggressively. Because early on, she used to win World Cups, and it didn't look like she was really skiing that fast. It didn't feel like she was really charging. But one thing I noticed over the years was that she took on this, what I call an aggressive mindset, where she would, again, I can't read her mind, but what I saw was more risk-taking, more aggressive skiing. And, you take somebody who's already winning World Cups and you add that, that's more dominance. But a little side note, I wrote an article about this a number of years ago where Mikaela is basically setting the stage for her own demise because she has raised the bar for the Volovas and the Gojas and all these others. For them to compete with her, they had to start doing something different because what they were doing wasn't working. So some of these other women have become more competitive because Mikaela has raised the bar. And at some point, another Mikaela is going to come along. Just like before that, it was Lindsay. So they come along every generation or so. And so, but she's changed the sport. And it's a combination of the way she trains, the quality of her training, the fact that she's innovating constantly, and the fact that she has found this mind space that enables her to do what she does. Now, one thing I really want to emphasize, especially young racers, is that she's a human being. Because young racers tend to look at their heroes and think they're superhuman. Well, I've known and I've worked with a lot of them. They're not. They're as human as the rest of us. But they figured out how to deal with that humanity. And was it the 2022, the Olympics where Mikaela did not have a good set of races?
2020, Beijing.
Beijing, right, yeah. So again, this shows her humanity. She was the face of the games, a lot of pressure, and it didn't go well for her. And I'm sure that's been a lesson for her, and she took that forward because she is somebody who just absorbs knowledge and absorbs experience. But it's a great lesson for all of us that even the very best, at the very top of their sport, struggle with the same kind of challenges. But they learn how to overcome them. They embrace them, and they get people like myself, and I've never worked with Mikaela, she's found other people who are equally capable. They find the people who help them get through these challenges, whether on the physical side, different coaches, mental coaches, equipment, all those things. So, she's a remarkable athlete, and she's also a remarkable person. She's just a really, really nice person, which in my world of sports, people tend to look up at these superstars and think they're all jerks, egotistical maniacs. But in the world I've been in at that level, they're some of the nicest people. And you've had a lot on your show, and they're just really nice people because human beings want to be treated like human beings. They want to connect with other people. They don't want to have the entourage and the bling and it's all about me. Most don't. There are plenty in other sports, but certainly not in ski racing. I find ski racers are just really just good human beings. Yeah. And maybe it's because they're not making $25 million a year. I don't know, but they're doing just fine on their own. So I think it says something about the sport and the culture for sure.
That's one of the reasons why we do this podcast. We want to show people that skiers are normal people. They just work very hard at what they do, and they're so passionate about what they do. And that's one of the reasons why we set up, and this is what we like to do.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah. I'm wondering, can I take you down another road that I think is really important for the listeners to hear about?
Of course.
Okay. So I take two paths in my work. The first path is what I called, and as I described, mental training. And that's absolutely essential. Again, racers are doers. They need to strengthen those muscles and do stuff in training and in races so they're prepared. The other path has to do with what I call unhealthy attitudes and emotions. And this is where I go deep with the athletes I work with. And not every athlete is a good fit for me because I've worked with a lot of very good ski racers who had good strength, good mental muscles, good mental toolbox, but they entered races with attitudes and emotions that basically guaranteed failure. Because and some of the emotions, some of the attitudes and emotions that I deal with, that I see are these obstacles about our overinvestment. Of course, if you're a ski racer, you have to care about your ski racing. If you don't care about your ski racing, like, why do it? But when you enter one of what I call the two zone, one of the most dangerous words in ski racing in life is a simple three-letter word, TOO. When you enter the two zone, it means you care too much. It means it's too important to you. It means your self-esteem, your identity is too attached to your results. So when you get in the gate, your life is on the line. I don't mean your physical life. Yes, sadly, every few years a ski racer dies. But I'm talking about sort of self-esteem, self-identity, ego, psychological death. And these attitudes and emotions, these are like the weight vest. So overinvestment, perfectionism. Ski racing and perfection do not play nice together. Perfect runs are slow runs. If you're making mistakes, if you're on edge, if you're in the back seat sometimes, if you're late, that's not perfect, but it's fast often. Fear of failure, epidemic in our culture. Probably the number one reason why parents bring their young racers to me. They don't know that's why they're bringing their racers to me, but that's the underlying issue. They're afraid to fail because we live in a culture, at least here in the US, where, for example, in school, if you get an A minus, OMG, what is wrong with you? After your first year FIS, if you don't have 40 points, you're going nowhere. And if you get in the gate and you're afraid to fail, you are never going full gas because you're protecting yourself from having to admit, I'm not good enough. So overinvestment, perfectionism, fear of failure, a preoccupation with results. Do they have live timing over in Europe and the UK? You know what live timing is?
Unlike Fizz, yeah.
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 On your phone, real time. It is so unhealthy. At lunch, what is everybody doing? Between runs, what's everybody doing? Looking at how they did. How many of those, let's say there are 150 kids in a race. How many of them are happy? A couple, maybe. And what are you focused on? Results. Parents, I've been to a lot of ski races in my life as a parent and as a racer and as a sports psychologist. And I see parents at the finish watching their kid on course, looking at live timing. You know what I want to do? We can have a whole nother workshop, a whole nother podcast on parents. Don't even get me started on them. But focusing on results, and I hear a lot of sports psychologists and mental coaches saying, oh, results don't matter. They're lying. Results matter. Kids don't get ahead in ski racing or in life because they try hard. That's important, but that doesn't do the job. They get ahead because they produce results. But to get the results you want, you can't focus on results. Focusing on results actually interferes with getting the results you want. 2 reasons. First of all, when does the outcome of a ski race occur? At the end. If you're focused on the end, what are you not focused on? Start to finish as fast as you can. Second of all, what makes racers nervous? Is it the process? No, it's the possible outcome. What possible outcome? Failure. So yes, results matter, but to get them, don't focus on them. Focus on what you need to do to get from the start to the finish, as you say, Alan, as fast as you can. The last thing, expectations and pressure. And this again, unbelievable weight vest. You hear this metaphor. The weight of the world was on Mikaela's shoulders. You hear that in every sport. That is a crushing burden. And those expectations, yes, they can come from inside, but ultimately they're learned from our culture. Our parents, our team, our achievement culture, our popular culture, our social media culture. And if you go into races with expectations, kiss of death, done, game over. Yes, there are some athletes in this world who can somehow harness it, but fundamentally the goal is to let go of expectations, remove the pressure, one goal, in the gate, fast as I can go. So a lot of my work is about clearing out the crap. And I didn't mention emotions. Fear, frustration, anger, sadness, disappointment. These are not go fast emotions. Occasionally anger can. And in one of my best races at Middlebury, anger drove me, and I won. But it's hard to replicate anger as a tool. More often than not, anger gets in the way. So a lot of my work with athletes is digging deep, because nobody chooses to be negative. Nobody chooses to fear failure. Nobody chooses to be perfect. They develop these beliefs through their family and their sport and their broader achievement culture. So a lot of my work is about uncovering these unconscious forces and showing why they're bad, because they are bad, and showing what a better attitude to have is. I use a metaphor of fork in the road. Ski racing and life are filled with forks in the road. You get to the start, you can either go, oh my gosh, everybody looks so fast in the US ski team jackets or the UK GB ski team jackets, and I can't ski like these people. Or that's bad road. Good road, I earned my spot here. I'm well prepared. I'm ready to go. I'm crushing it. And so a lot of my work is about getting athletes to see when they're on the bad road, to understand what the good road is, and to get them to take the good road, to adopt attitudes, beliefs, emotions that are fuel. This is a metaphor I use, is fuel. So perfectionism and fear of failure can work. They're fuel, because if you're afraid of failure, you're going to do everything you can to not fail. But there's a big difference between working hard to not fail and working hard to succeed. And so in an ideal world, and this is just a great life lesson, you want athletes to be fueled by pure rocket fuel. Joy, passion, motivation, love, excitement, pride, inspiration, fulfillment, satisfaction. If a racer can be fueled by those things, good things are going to happen. I don't know if that means being on the top of the podium in the World Cup, or skiing in college, or just your high school team, whatever. You're going to become the best you can be. Whereas all that contaminated fuel, all those attitudes and emotions, not only do they not work, they make you feel like crap. So it's about clearing all that stuff out. So when they get in the gate, there's not all this like junk rolling around in their minds. It's just like, bring it. Simple, but not easy, for sure.
Yeah.
Because if it was easy, they wouldn't need me.
Yeah, that's true.
But one of my jobs is, I don't know if you've heard the phrase planned obsolescence. It's back in the days when car companies would make cars that they knew would die after 7 years. So you'd have to buy a new one. My goal is to become obsolescent to the athletes I work with, because I want them to, because I'm not a magician. I give them the tools, the information, the support. Then it's like, you own it, you go do it. And then you don't need me anymore. Beautiful. I don't need the work. I got plenty of stuff going on.
Yeah, very good.
Excellent.
Would you mind trying something with us?
I don't know what it is, but I'm game for it.
No, I don't know. I'm not really sure. Just to give us and everybody at home listening a kind of idea of a kind of mental exercise that not just athletes and World Cup skiers and all the sports people you've worked with, but anybody can do that make them feel better on a bad day, or something to
lift.
Yeah, in any kind of situation.
Yeah. So there are two parts to that. One is, what can I give them to perform better? The other is what they can do to feel better. So let's start with the do better, because this is about ski racing, and ski racers are doers. So I mentioned this earlier, is mental imagery, visualization, an unbelievably powerful tool. And now is, you don't wait till November to start doing it any more than you would wait till November to start gait training. You start doing imagery in the off season, just like conditioning. And you imagine yourself skiing, racing, training, skiing over and over again, because imagery is not just mental. It actually triggers your motor programs. And there's all kinds of research that has shown that when you do imagery, you actually trigger the muscles you use when you're skiing. So in a sense, you're fooling your body into ski racing, into thinking you're actually doing it. And the problem with ski racing is you can't, even if you live in a mountain town, if you live in Saas Bay or Hood or wherever, you can't ski every day, all day. So reps are important. Repetition. And so imagery enables you to get all these reps of seeing and feeling and programming your muscles how you want to ski in your races. So when the race season comes, it's like it's already wired into your brain. I've spent the last 6 months, 5 times a week for 10 minutes, imagining yourself skiing super fast. You've rewired your brain. You've rewired your brain to when you get in the gate, it's full gas. That doesn't mean you're going to be nervous. You're not going to be nervous and those things. That's part of life. That's part of ski racing. But your mind knows how to direct that. So imagery, if people want to email me, they can. I've got some free audios, some imagery audios, and a workbook that I can send them that they can use. Doesn't cost a thing. Happy to share it. Now to make them feel better. This is a little more complex because everybody has their own self-care. That's the sort of the popular term in well-being and personal growth literature and social media. It's a matter of figuring out what makes you feel happy, because there's a tendency when we feel bad to just wallow in it, to just stay angry, have us ruminate, stuff goes on in our head, we just stay angry, we stay frustrated, we stay sad. It's hard to break out of that. I think that the single biggest thing you can do is do something, like do anything that will get you to not sit there and feel like crap. So that can be listening to music, uplifting music, please no emo, hanging out with friends, anything that first of all distracts you, takes your mind, takes your focus away from not feeling very good. Second, do things that generate emotions that are the exact opposite of what you were feeling. So do things that are fun. Music, an incredibly powerful tool that I work with, use with athletes. Music, for some reason, it's cultural, and I think it's wired into us evolutionarily. Music has this profound influence on us, the way we think, our emotions, and our physiology. It's hard to think and feel down when you're listening to, I don't know, AC/DC or Def Leppard. I'm a metal guy. Or whatever your music of choice is. But if you listen to depressing music, heartbreak music, of course you're going to feel bad. Do activities that make you feel competent. So you had a really bad day of training. You just sucked out there. Do something you feel good about, like you're really good at tuning skis, or you do a weight workout, or you go do homework that you're really in a subject that you're really good at. So because typically when we feel bad, we feel incapable, undercapable, we feel unloved, unvalued, and unrespected. So you want to do things that return you to that equilibrium of those states you're in. And so it's really a matter of every individual. Find out what makes you feel good, both emotionally, and makes you think good, even though it's not good English. And do those things and force yourself to do those things. This is a classic fork in the road. You had a bad race, pity party, wah, wah, wah. Yeah, okay, it's okay to allow yourself to grieve. It was a loss. But if it lasts more than the next day, you're on a bad road, and it's going to hurt your training, it's going to hurt your school, and it just feels bad. Why go down a road, continue to go down a road when you feel terrible? But it's hard in that moment when you're wallowing in self-pity to be able to think, okay, what can I do here to make myself feel better? Because you don't want to think, you just want to feel bad. But if you do it beforehand, if you make a list of 3 things that make me feel really good, then it's right there. That's part of your mental toolkit. And so you, when that happens, that's the fork in the road. You go, oh my gosh, this is not going to do me any good, wallowing in self-pity. And you know what? Oh, I've got this list in my toolkit. Oh yeah, I'm going to play music if I like the guitar, let's say, or I like doing crossword puzzles, or I'm going to hang out with my friends, or whatever it is. The hard part then is getting out of there, because we're wired when we feel bad to want to withdraw from the world. That's the worst thing you can do. You need to engage with the world. The good thing about the good road, 2 things about the good road. First of all, when you take the good road, good things happen, and you feel good. So generally, when good things happen and we feel good, we want to repeat that. So the more you take the good road, it's self-reinforcing. And it's not just for one situation like a bad day of training. Maybe your girlfriend or boyfriend broke up with you, or you got a bad grade in school, or you got in a fight with your best friend. This ability to take the good road this whole fork in the road idea, it applies to everything. So the more you take the good road in anything, it helps you develop the capacity to take the good road in anything. And because ski racing and life, there are a lot of ups and downs. If you're living life, if you're on the edge, if you're taking risks, if you're out of your comfort zone, if you're pushing yourself, there are going to be a lot of downs. And I can attest to that. I've had plenty. But I've also learned that there are a lot of ups. And if you pursue the ups, the downs become fewer, and they have less amplitude. And the goal is to get to a place where it's just like almost always good, with some highs and some lows. But overall, you're at a pretty good place.
You live on the good road?
Yeah.
I know I'm kind of waxing philosophical here, but this is life. And one thing I really emphasize with the athletes I work with is that, I support their athletic goals. I want them to become the best they can be. But ultimately, none of that matters. All the successes, the trophies, the wealth, the fame, none of it matters if you're not happy. And so personal development, mental health, those are way more important in the big picture. But for young racers, they don't think about that stuff because all they care about is they want to achieve the goal. But I make them think about that stuff, the personal growth, the well-being, the mental health, because that actually is mental training. Because if you are in a place where you have a high level of well-being, a level of mental health, a level of feeling valued, a level of happiness, you're going to be a better ski racer. So all the deep stuff, all the philosophical stuff, all the adult stuff, that is mental training, even though they don't realize they're doing it.
Yeah, that's great. I'm just going to finish up with some quick fire questions, if that's okay. Absolutely. And we'll start with bringing it back to skiing. Your favorite place to ski? Oh gosh, I've been asked this all the time by people. I lived in Aspen for many years. Loved Aspen, loved Vail. I was in Alta Badia with my kids during the World Cup, giving some talks there. So fun. I haven't skied that much in Europe during the winter, and it's a very different culture. And there's just a purity that I felt there. I'm at my cabin near Sugar Bowl, which is near Palisades, Tahoe, what used to be known as Squaw Valley. Great little area, wonderful community. I love that. Whistler, massive. Telluride, I was there last winter giving some talks and skiing. There are so many amazing skiers around the world. It doesn't matter. And you know what? Buck Hill. These ones in the Midwest that are like 500 vertical. That's the beauty of ski racing. That's the beauty of skiing. It doesn't matter how high or low it is. It's a challenge. You're outdoors. You're doing something you can improve on. You're doing it with friends. It doesn't matter. Just get out there and ski. And if you have the opportunity to ski race, beautiful. It's a wonderful place. It was formative in my development. But just get out there and ski. We've asked that question a lot, and that might be the best answer we've had. It doesn't matter where it is. Yeah. If you have two sticks on your feet and you got these other sticks in your hand, it's a good day. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more. This is hard. I'm going to warn you. Okay. Your favorite ski racer? Yeah. No, it's actually not that hard, and for very different reasons. Odermatt, because a couple things. One, he's not a super big guy, and I'm not a super big guy. For those of you who go way back, Gustavo Terni, Italian 5-time World Cup champion, a little guy. I'm always going to be on the side of the little guy. But Odermatt, because he just throws it down. I've never talked to him. I've seen him race live a couple of times. I've seen him on video, TV a bunch. He just goes. And so I really respect that. And Mikaela is a cerebral ski racer. She's super bright. She's analytical. She's thoughtful. And that was my strength. I wasn't an intuitive skier. I never had the capacity. I wasn't the kind of athlete that could be
an Odermatt, because he obviously is tremendously gifted. He's got great genes. His dad was a very fine ski racer in his day. But I appreciate Mikaela's thoughtful approach, because that's how I approach my ski racing, my triathlon, my life. So it wasn't so hard a question.
Oh, okay. It's hard for us, that one. Okay, then next one. The role you've had in your career that you value the most, that's had the most significance and satisfaction for you personally.
Wow. Yeah. I think, I've worked with, have I worked with thousands of athletes over the years? I don't know. I've never added it up, but I've worked with all kinds of junior elite ski racers and athletes in other sports. But I've also worked with my share of Olympians and professionals. And I think the most satisfying, the most challenging is working at that level, because I can work with a 16-year-old and I can do just about anything and they'll get better, because this is the World Cup. This is where they are. There's a lot of room for improvement. But to work with someone in the World Cup, I worked with an Olympic gold medalist in Paris in triathlon, and still do. And it's such a challenge, because these athletes, they're already here. They're already at 99%. How do you get them to go, a percent faster? And if you think about in ski racing, like I often ask athletes this, if how much faster would I need to guarantee you would go for you to buy into my stuff? And they'll say things like, like 20%. Well, 20% over 90 seconds, let's say 2 runs of slalom, that's 18 seconds. I'm not that good. I'm sorry. I'm not that good. but if I could say I could go 1%, I can get you to go 1% faster. That's 9/10 of a second. In a World Cup, in a ski race, that's night and day. And so that is my challenge, is to take somebody, if you're at the World Cup level, you're already unbelievably strong mentally. You wouldn't have gotten there unless you were. So what can I do to either help you go faster or help you not hold back at all? And so, and plus, obviously, World Cuppers are adults. They're often very bright and curious and open and motivated. And so that challenges me. And I make a decent living, but I'm not in this for the money, for sure. I'm in it just for partially to help people. Partially, I love sharing ideas, but also that feeling I get when I contribute, when I help somebody. And yes, it's very gratifying when this one athlete won an Olympic gold medal in Paris last year. Sure. But also a 16-year-old who just qualified for U18 nationals or something, or all of a sudden just ripped. That's what it's all about. That's what drives me. And so I guess that's the answer to your question.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for your time. That was fascinating. Great insight into the world of the mental world of sports and ski racing. So thank you very much.
Fantastic.
My pleasure. You guys ask great questions. And also for the audience, one thing about podcasts I don't like is that we have these great conversations and then it's like a one and done. And what I will tell people is that if I can help in any way, and look, I'm not looking for business, but if you go to my website, I've got like 95% of everything I've ever written on there for free. If you just have a question, a couple of questions you can ask. I get questions all the time from athletes all over the world. I don't charge them for it to spend 10 minutes on an email. I just want to help people. And then of course, yes, if somebody feels like I might be able to help them more formally, then reach out to me and we can talk about that.
Okay.
One last little thing, a little shameless plug. I didn't get to mention this in my introduction. So about 1.5 years ago, I co-founded a startup, a tech startup called Mind2, as in put your mind to. And we're launching an app within the next month or so that basically scales me, that basically takes me and uploads me to the matrix. And with me and a group of global leaders in the field, we are creating a platform where athletes don't have to work one-on-one with me. Maybe they can't afford it, they don't have the time, but where they can learn in great depth and in great breadth all the different aspects of the mental side of sport, of well-being and mental health. So it's Mind2. The website's mind2.io. If you want to learn more about it, it's not going to be super expensive. And I think it's going to be a really valuable tool for not only individual athletes and ski racers, but also, and it's not just for ski racers, it's for all athletes, but also for programs where I've worked with almost all the top junior programs in the country on the mental side, and nobody's figured out how to deliver consistent, impactful, engaging programming on the mental side. So this could be one possible tool. Enough of my shameless commercialism. Thank you for letting me throw that in.
Okay.
Anyway, again, great interviewers, great fun. I hope someday you'll have me back to talk about other things, because there are so many things about ski racing to talk about, like parents. In any event, all my best from this side of the Pacific. This side of the Pacific, this side of the Atlantic, to your side, and have a great summer.
You too.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Same
you.
to you. Thank you so much.
Hello and welcome back to this intriguing episode of the Skiing is Believing podcast, brought to you by Ski Racing Media. Final word from Matt Garker and Alan Rigg. What a great delve into a new side of the sport.
Absolutely. I loved it. It was fantastic, that. It was so good. I can't wait for your publishing so I can listen to it back. It was so interesting, informative, and very friendly, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. Really good.
Kind of went into it a little bit unsure as to how exactly the conversation would flow and go, but it was absolutely brilliant. Like Alan says, you don't really need to be a ski racing fan to actually enjoy and take things out of this conversation. And as you say, I can't wait to listen back to it either.
Yeah.
I might do it, listen to it on the plane to Spain.
Oh, yeah. That's a good idea, that.
If I download it, actually. We're heading away, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
Me on Wednesday, Alan on Thursday.
Yeah.
And me for 2 weeks, Alan for 1 week.
Yeah.
So not a lot of content going to be published.
No.
You might want to head over to Alan Rigg's Instagram for some picture updates, because that might well be coming.
It might, yeah. You never know.
Mm.
You never know. When I get more confident.
And of course, I'll be putting my Spanish language into practice on the Costa Almeria. So very excited for all of that. But for now, you don't really care that we're going to Spain this week, I don't think.
No.
But we will be back with the next episode of the Top 10 series next week. So stay tuned for that. If you're on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're listening, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the follow. Thank you very much for your support. Thanks to Dr. Jim. Thanks to Ski Racing Media. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And we will, Alan.
Ski you later.
Ski you later.